Hey, internets, old internet people. Trying a little 60 frames per second today. Tell me if you can notice and or care and or like the difference. Oh, shoot. We just jumped right into that boss. Look at that boss. Oh, should I just spin it? Let me just spin it. So warping may be a little bit different in this video, but I wanted to play around with it a little bit. I also wanted to do a quick little shout out here. I don't think I've mentioned them yet. I definitely haven't mentioned one of them, but there's two Kickstarters going on right now that I want to mention that everybody needs to get up on. One is for The Beast, and I'll put a link to that below, but it's basically this really beastly spinner. So I want to link everybody to that because it looks sweet. And I want to be able to get one, and I want to see it funded, and it's from someone that's, you know, part of the community that got one done, so we'd like that. Also, I want to shout out the Flip It. So the Flip It, another spinner slash fidget cube slash whole nine. So it looks like a really fun thing, especially for the kids and the younger crowd. It doesn't look like super serious high end, but it still looks like, one, a lot of fun, and two, it's pretty cheap. Even without, I'm not sure if there's any early backer rewards going, but both of those can be had pretty cheap. The Beast, I think you can get, depending on the material, between 40 and 50 bucks for a big, super serious spinner. And then the Flip It you can get on yeah, I think something like 21 bucks for the two parts. So it's a spinner with a magnet to a fidget cube, and you can kind of do lots of orientations, get a bunch of kits, and go wild with it. So check those out. But let's take a look at this. Oh, you know what? We just got a 2-for-1 there, because those are the butter buttons. So these are the buttons that actually come on it. Look at it play with the light. Look at that machine finish. I kind of am liking these buttons on there, but when you get it, these are the buttons you would come with. But they're both the same size. So we got our little measuring doodad here. 22 millimeters. So I'm kind of a little sad that I forgot to bring the case that the boss comes with, because it's got a really cool packaging. But as I'm doing my video outside in the sun, you might have missed half the excitement. So head over to the WooSah page on Facebook and check out my live video I did if you want to see the unboxing on this and see the hype. But the box that it comes in, it's this really nice box. Almost looks like it would have a really nice fancy engagement ring. It's a little larger, but that sort of style jewelry box. Really nice, soft, leatherish stuff on the outside. And inside, you open it up, and then the boss is just in there sparkling because it's got a friggin' light in the box. It's a really, really nice packaging, nice scenario. So you got to check that out. Look at that, 130 grams. So the boss is a heavy one. So first things first, if you don't like heavy spinners, boss is not for you. We'll just get that out of the way because it is heavy and it feels heavy in a lot of ways. Like if you just sit there and have this between your fingers and you're fidgeting all day. Ooh, that's kind of nice with that 60 frames per second. Look at that. That's neato, huh? That might actually not be 60 frames per second so much as it is the size of the arms warping. But yeah, so the boss is a heavy girl. If you're holding it all day, a little bit of finger fatigue for sure because it's heavy. But look at, let's get in close one more time. So what do we got here with the boss? So essentially we've got probably a very similar material they're using as the chakra in terms of, you look at the weight, the size of the body, and then you look at the size of the arm, the weights. They probably go up to just about the same height. But then obviously there's a much different machining that goes into this guy, the cutouts for all the weights, and then the machining in the middle here that just looks fantastic. Really, really dig that. So it's got a little bit of fingerprints. I'm sorry, y'all, I've been fidgeting with it. But it feels nice. And then again, these are the stainless steel butter buttons that you can get on some of the Etsy drops that work with the chakra. So if you've got a chakra and you've been waiting for them stainless steel buttons, you got them now. Ain't nothing left to hate on. All you can do is love WooSah. All you can do is love WooSah now. Look at that. They came to play with this boy. Let me tell you, this thing is real. This thing is real legit. So, yeah, so we got this really nice machining. It kind of resembles and looks a lot like their industrial finish that they do, but obviously just in a pretty even, consistent swirl around there. So, and as you can expect from WooSah, like, pretty much dead on perfect balance. Virtually all my WooSahs have just about perfect balance, I've noticed. So, see that. So perfect balance. Spins really well. We got the weight out of the way. Let's talk about spin time for a minute. So this comes with a 1-drop bearing in it, as is traditional with the WooSahs with their R188 style spinners. We'll take the buttons off while we're doing this too. We'll switch the buttons so you guys can see them. So, but what I did was, let me do the spin times, I guess, first for the 1-drop bearing that was in there. So I got about 5:15 on a tablespin. and about 625 on a vertical spin. So with a 1-drop bearing, that's actually pretty legit. But at the same time, I've said it before, I think in my Namaste video most notably, 1-drop bearings for me have a tremendous variation in terms of spin time. So I have a lot of variation from spinner to from bearing to bearing when it comes to 1-drop. So, ooh, don't drop that. All right, put that on there. So it's got the standard O-ring retention method, but what I've put in there is a, right now I've got a Fidget HQ high velocity bearing in there. Just because with as big as heavy as this is, it is super smooth. It was damn near silent, might have even been more silent. Kind of hard to say smoothness versus silent, but I'm even more silent maybe than the Chakra. But I don't know, with something this big and this heavy, I actually want a little bit of feedback. So luckily it's not like press fit and it's easy to switch out, but even if it was press fit, you just get a bearing tool, it'd be easy to switch out. So but with this high velocity bearing, basically this nice hybrid ceramic, we got 825 on a table spin, and then a little over 904, 905, something like that on a vertical spin. So spin time champion too, but she's got a lot of weight, got a lot of mass. So I'm expecting a little bit more on a vertical as well. I might need to clean and break in this bearing a little bit. But when you get a table spin of 8 minutes on something this heavy, I would expect closer to 10, 11, 12 minutes on a vertical spin. So, but even 9 minutes on a vertical spin is still really good. So we're not worried. Let's look at all those buttons together. Look at that machining. So one thing you can see is it's a little bit right here. I think it's right there. It's not super obvious, but there's a little bit of a circle in the machining just where, it has to mill around. At some point it has to stop and come off. So you can't really do much about that, but it's not as obvious. In some of the photos they have on their site, I think you actually see that more than you see in person. So just so you guys know, if you do see that, that is a thing, but it's not really bad. So, but what's the fidgeting like on this? So you see me spinning a little bit here. Fidgeting on this is pretty amazing, y'all. So one thing I noticed on this that was pretty interesting to me that I didn't really expect. So when you've got a heavy spinner, you've got a lot of weight, a lot of mass, a lot of stuff to move around, right? So a lot of times when you're flicking with it, you really kind of feel like you've got to push a lot of that weight. But with this, there's something about pushing this guy that's actually like it's almost effortless. Like I can push that and get a good hard flick off the inside of the arm here, especially. And it just feels effortless. It kind of reminds me, much like I said, the Chakra is like kind of like playing with water. I wouldn't use that same analogy here, but this feels like the same sort of resistance as maybe just flicking your finger through water. Like you can tell there's something there, but it doesn't feel like the weight that this guy's got. Pulls on this guy are good. This spinner in particular, I feel is a thrower. And what I mean by thrower, I mentioned this in my live video. I don't know if I've mentioned this in the YouTube videos, but I really want to flip my wrist down when I spin it. And really get like both a hard preloaded flick and a good throw. Like that's just what it feels like to me, what it wants. And it's really good for that. The way the cutouts and the smoothness are, you're 9 times out of 10, my finger seems to land not like that actually. But in these finger grooves, especially if you kind of put your finger in from the side, so as opposed to coming in from the outside like that, you put your finger up from underneath. And you just get in that side groove. But even if you get the tops, like this cutout here, means that anywhere you grab it, you're going to be able to get a good pull, and every spot that you grab it feels natural, which is really nice. So for fidgeting, in a lot of ways, this is an all-day fidgeter in terms of like no hot spots. You can fidget with it anyway. No matter where you stop it with your finger, you're going to be able to pull it. It does not matter. It reminds me in a lot of ways, although obviously a very different shape, reminds me in a lot of ways of the Talisman for that reason. Like it's got good grabbing on the outside of the arms, and it's got good grabbing in between the arms. So any way you grab it is going to be good. If I go to flick it out and I catch it here, I can flick it. If I get between the arms, I can flick it. Same thing on the tops. In fact, my finger almost always pulls on the top. It doesn't really, it can pull down here without much issue, but the shape and the way your hands grab it, I'm almost always on the top of the arm, and with those grooves, it works. Right, like if my finger will want to bridge the gap rather than get stuck in it. Like my finger kind of pushes this down when it's spinning, and it does that, and then my finger's right here for a pull. So whatever your fidgeting style, this works for it. Let's see, what else? The edge of this machining mark I mentioned, if you're really feeling right there, on a couple of them I could feel almost like a little bit of a burr like the edge of like a bit of a sharp edge, but your finger really can't catch in there in any way that it would be a hot spot. So that it almost feels like if you're really like just getting your hands on and really touching this guy, you can feel that a little bit. And it's not on all of them, and it's not really bad, but it almost feels like it would be a bit of an issue, but I haven't found that to be an issue in terms of fidgeting. So I know that this is obviously their Kickstarter backer thing. It goes for $129. I got it my Kickstarter backer, but they're starting to have them on their drops here and there, so you're probably not going to see them a lot. And $129 for a WooSah, I think, kind of scares some people initially, but especially when you take this and you line it up against something like a Thrax, for example, similar kind of form factor, $135, so that's $6 more than this guy. You line it up against something like a Trillium, that's obviously very different spinners, but $180. Nobody really, not a lot of people anyway, really seem to bat an eye at the $180 price tag. So I just kind of want to put some of that in perspective with the precision machining that's going on in here. USA made, family run company, helping out the people. I think they're really doing a lot to keep these priced right. So they did, they kind of had this design on their own. They didn't reference or weren't inspired by anything like this. They've kind of had some prototypes they've been working through the Kickstarter. I know that as this was coming out to release, they did have some concerns in terms of, seeing those, tri-portals out there and the steampunk fat boys and stuff like that. I think we're at the point in the spinner game where there's only, like some of these more traditional designs, just adding your own flair to it really should be enough to set it apart, right? Having these cutouts on the inside of the arms, especially these one machine marks on these raised weights, there's really enough here that really shouldn't set off any like inspired by or like clone or design rip-off kind of conversations. So at least that's my take on it. So really, really good spinner for the value, fun to fidget with, no hot spots, all day fidgeter, just a fantastic spinner. So, and look at her, she looks good. She just looks good. Want to get up and close a little bit one more time? Yeah, you guys let me know how you like that 60 frames per second. It doesn't seem to do the warps anywhere near as well. Let's try to get a good two-handed spin here. Maybe if we slow it down. But it does it fun when it does do it. Look at that boss go. So I guess it warps all right. It's just different speeds than I'm used to, so it's hard for me to kind of throw it at those speeds. But there you go. I feel like there's more that I want to say, but I could just go on and on and on. But get yourself a boss, man. This is fantastic. If you're in kind of the high-end spinner game, like WooSah came to play, like this is the boss. So fantastic spinner, worth the price, highly recommended. Go get yourself some. And while you're at it, go back to Flip It in the Beast. I'll put those links down there too. All right, y'all. Is there one more warp before it's done spinning, or are we all done? Oh, that's kind of neato. It's not really a warp, but it's like a 6-arm version of the warp. Yep, we're all done. We are all done. Kisses, Internet. Peace.